The Red Minivan, written and read by Bill Lenihan. It was the 60s and everything was swinging, including me. I'd left school at 15 and got a job. I was good looking and cool, and best of all, I had a way with the birds. And I think from that statement, you'll have worked out I have confidence, bags of it. Working in the high street, I saw everything that was going on. It was a time of smart suits, miniskirts, Beatles and everything else that went with the swinging 60s. I just bought a second-hand Morris Mini. There were lots of Minis on the road, so I had to be different. Mine was a van, second-hand maybe, but in good nick. Used to belong to Dragon Aerials, bright red it was. If you can't afford the best, buy something that stands out. And this did. Soon everyone on the estate knew the red Mini, and best of all, they knew it was mine. The most popular place for people my age to hang out was the top rank, but my sights were set higher. Come Saturday night, I was a regular at the Townsman, a nightclub in the centre of town. This was top class. Real posh people. Mind, there was also a few of the local gangsters as well. Most times, there wasn't any difference between them. Gangsters and posh people, that is. But nevertheless, people with money. This was the crowd, all right. Get in with this lot, and I'm going places. So I thought. Well, there was this one old bird. When I say bird, it was more old hen, I suppose, and not much of a looker. But she looked like she had class. Fur coats and no drawers, as my mother would say. Either way, it didn't matter to me. Everyone seemed to make a fuss of her. Her name was Grace. They said she was amazing. Well, even to me then it sounded naff. But to be honest, when I say old bird, anyone over 40 was old then. But she didn't half take a shine to me. She'd get me up to dance, and her hands would be all over me. Her old man would be there as well, but he didn't seem to notice. Not surprising, really. After all, he must have been over 60. Apparently, he was master of the Gower Hunt. Well, he did well when he hunted her down, I suppose. I heard some of the hangers-on saying she was a trophy wife. Seemed more like second prize to me. But I played along just to see where it would take me. I mean, we all have ambition, don't we? They lived in a big house down the Gower, bit different from the council estate I lived on, but no one mentioned it. Suppose because I was a favourite of Lady Mac, as I now thought of her. Apparently she made a habit of latching on to younger men, until she'd had enough of them, that was. Then she'd give them the old heave-o. Well, she hadn't had me. Despite her telling me to call her and come around the afternoon when Reggie would be at the office. Well, I thought if you want me, there's going to have to be a bit more in it for me, other than getting into bed with an old bird. I mean, I could take my pick. This one night I was in a Townsman and I could feel his eyes on me. Lady Mac and Reggie were on winter break in the south of France, so the hangers-on told me. Then they ignored me. So much for them, snobby bastards, I thought. Then I had this feeling. I don't know how, but I just did. Sitting there with her friends was the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen. She was wearing one of those new maxi dresses, which I didn't like for obvious reasons, but that was till I saw her wearing one. She was celebrating her 17th birthday. I tried chatting her up and got all tongue-tied. Anyway, she knew where I was coming from, and it didn't bother her knowing what part of town I came from either. I could tell she was classy and a bit spoiled, but in a nice sort of way. Well, that was it. I was hooked. After a couple of weeks, Lady Mac was back on the scene, and she didn't seem best pleased when she saw Sophie hanging off my arm. Oh yeah, that's her name, the girl I can't stop thinking about, Sophie. So guess what? Grace invites us to a do at her place. I mean, how could I refuse? As I drove up the drive, I couldn't believe the motors that were there, parked in front of the house. And there, just at the side, was my favourite, a car I could only dream about, in all its shining glory. a G-Reg Mark 10 Jag. I mean, it was brand new. Well, almost. I almost had a panic attack. Sophie looked at me and smiled. "You all right?" she asked. I leant across and kissed her. As the evening drew on, I was getting more and more bored, and I knew Sophie was too. I mean, there wasn't anyone else our age. So I whispered, "Ready to go?" She smiled and nodded. Just then, Lady Mac came in banging a gong, and everyone stopped talking. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, "we have now reached the climax of the evening," and everyone started laughing and cheering. Well, I didn't. I didn't see anything to laugh about, but I did my best, just to be polite. Then in walks Reggie, with what looked like a punch bowl, only there wasn't any punch in it. Placing it on the table, he bowed to it like it was some sort of royalty. "Gentlemen, your keys, please," he shouts, and everyone starts cheering. So one at a time, the bloke starts walking up and throwing in the keys into the bowl. And as they did, everyone cheered. Finally, I was the only one left. I mean, what could I do? It finally dawned on me what this was all about. Sophie grasped my hand, and I felt her shake. I knew she was scared. Anyway, I stood up and walked to the bowl. As I was about to put my keys in, I saw Lady Mac looking at me. She had a smirk on her face. So I gave her one of my best smiles. I mean, I knew it was keys she was going to pick. After all, she was the one that did the dumping, and she wasn't finished with me yet, or so she thought. And it would be easy to pick my keys. I mean, an old Mini. The keys would stand out like dog's balls. So walking up to the bowl, I put my keys in. I made a big show of shuffling them about. Looking at her, I laughed, and so did everyone else. Banging the gong, she shouted, "Ladies and gentlemen, at your leisure, you must close your eyes and pick your keys. And as is customary, I, as the hostess, will go first." I wasn't paying much attention as I took Sophie's hand and walked from the room. She was still trembling as we got outside. So I said, "Come on, we're going for a ride." And opening the passenger door of the Jag, I said, "Please step inside, my lady." Sophie started to speak, but I stopped her with a kiss. As we rode down the drive, I saw all the lights come on the outside.